were the questions that were going through their minds, probably the questions that are going through your minds as well. How can a person leave this body and then suddenly wind up in another body, a different body? And if so, what kind of difference is it going to really be? Are we going to be able to recognize one another? What about babies? What about family? What about people who are cremated? What about those who die maybe drowning in the ocean? I mean, is God going to resurrect those bodies out of the ocean? What about all the decaying and the burning? And what about all these questions? Well, they had the same questions in their mind. In fact, in verse 35, we start this passage by asking an age-old question. And basically, he's asking the question, if a man dies, shall he live again? Verse 35, but someone will say, how are the dead raised? And with what kind of body do they come? We look at this, and we understand that Paul has already gone over the major argument for the resurrection, our own resurrection. And it happened in verse 20. He says, but now Christ has been raised from the dead, the first fruits of those who are asleep. Now, the first fruits analogy went something like this. It's a farm analogy that the church of Corinth could really grasp, they could understand. But here's the point. If you miss the whole point, everything else of the message, don't miss this, because this guarantees your resurrection if you've trusted in Christ. And that, in fact, here's Paul's argument. He says, look, if Christ is not raised, then you're not going to be raised. But if you're going to be raised, then Christ was raised. Now, how the two go together? Why could not Christ be raised and us not be raised? Notice there's three illustrations here beginning in verse 36. You fool, he says. Now he says this, I'm